Open mic night, Wolf Theater. Chum Daddy's gonna perform.
What are you doing, karaoke?
No, I'm gonna be a stand-up comedian.
No way.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a what?
Rick Harrison just dropped a bombshell. Chumlee is really facing life in prison, and it's not a joke. At 59, Rick finally told the world that the news is true, and it shook fans to the core. How did the funny guy from Pawn Stars end up in a situation this bad? What Rick is about to confirm will make his ex-coworker face the death penalty. The fame that broke the pawn shop family. Let that sink in for a minute. The guy who made us laugh with his ridiculous bets, weird gadgets, and clueless looks is now behind bars for the rest of his life. This isn't a prank or a new season twist. This is real, and it says a lot about how fame can chew you up and spit you out. For years, the pawn shop was like a second home to Chumlee, but now it's like he never existed. Before we dive deeper into this, it's clear that the truth about Chumlee is far darker than fans ever expected, and this won't be the only thing that leaves you speechless. But let's back up a little. Remember when this whole thing started? A small, dusty pawn shop in Las Vegas became a goldmine once the cameras showed up. Rick Harrison, the brains of the operation, knew what he was doing. With his no-nonsense attitude and sharp knowledge of history and collectibles, he turned boring old pawning into a top-rated TV show.
Hey, Las Vegas, how you doing tonight? All right, well, thanks for coming out here. I know there's a lot of other shows you could have attended in Las Vegas, but let's face it, you're all just too poor to attend them.
People came in to sell strange things, rare coins, ancient swords, even shrunken heads. He knew how to make it exciting, and Chumlee added the laughs. For a while, it looked perfect. Fans loved the banter between him and Chumlee, and even though Chumlee played the fool, he was the heart of the show. But the truth is, things weren't so happy behind the scenes. Fame changed the whole dynamic. Money rolled in fast, and with it came lawsuits, backstabbing, and too many hidden things. Chumlee started living like a rock star. Fast cars, big parties, flashy clothes, you name it. The problem is, he wasn't built for that kind of life. He made poor choices, hung out with the wrong crowd, and let things spiral. People around him looked the other way because he was still the funny guy on screen. But once the police came knocking, the fun was over. What landed him in this mess wasn't one mistake. It was a bunch of bad decisions stacked on top of each other. The charges? They weren't small. And now the man who once led the shop is saying it flat out. Chumlee is paying for it all. The law isn't playing favorites just because he made people laugh on cable TV. He's not just dealing with Chumlee's fall. His whole world is falling apart. The shop, the brand, the family, it's all tangled up in drama.
Why don't you shed some light on these for old Ricky over here?
Rick, you don't look very happy.
Yeah, apparently I don't need you anymore because...
There's that mess with his own mom, who says she was tricked out of her part of the business when she was sick. She says he made her sign things when she wasn't clear-headed, and now she wants it all back. She even filed a restraining order and is asking the court to stop him from touching the family money. He says none of it's true and that people are using his 81-year-old mom as a pawn. But the damage is done. The headlines paint a different picture. One day it's about Chumlee's downfall, the next it's a courtroom battle. And in the middle of it all, the pawn shop sits there like a ghost of what it used to be. Even the money isn't what it used to be. Back in the day, the shop brought in over $1 million a year. But when the pandemic hit, those numbers crashed hard. No tourists, no walk-ins, no deals. Just a silent store and more bills than cash. Add in the lawsuits, the broken relationships, and the bad press, and the once golden empire is starting to look like a cracked souvenir. He always said the shop was about more than just selling stuff. It was about stories, memories, and history. But now all the stories seem to be scandals. The memories are bitter, and the history is one they'd rather forget. And with Chumlee serving life, it's like a dark cloud hanging over everything. This isn't the ending fans wanted. People tuned in for the laughs, the quirky items, the bickering family. They didn't sign up for betrayal, lawsuits, and a beloved cast member heading to prison for good. But that's what fame does sometimes. It lifts you up, then drops you without warning. He says he's still focused on running the business, trying to hold things together. But you can hear it in his voice, the energy, The passion, it's not there anymore. Too many battles, too many losses. When your right-hand man ends up in prison, your mom sues you, and the money dries up, even a tough guy like that has to feel the weight. But keeping the shop running was just the start. What happened next brought his own family into a big mess, the truth behind the smiles on screen. When things go off the rails, they really go off the rails. Joanne, at over 80 years old and dealing with some pretty serious health problems, found herself in a tight spot. She needed round-the-clock help just to get through the day, and that kind of care doesn't come cheap. We're talking more than $115,000 a month. With her allowance apparently cut off, she did what a lot of people might do in her shoes. She turned to the courts. Her move? Filing a restraining order. But this wasn't just about money. This was a strategic play. That court order wasn't only to get her funds back. Nope, it was also a way to stop the guy pulling the financial strings from hiding or moving the family's money around. She wanted to freeze things in place, keep the business and the assets right where they were until someone could make sense of the mess. What probably stung him the most was how he found out. Not from her, from the news. Imagine flipping through the headlines and realizing your own family is suing you. Ouch. He swore he tried to call her, over and over, but silence, radio static, no one on the other end. With no real way to talk things out, any kind of peaceful agreement went straight out the window. And let's be real, no one's going back to a happy home after that kind of drama. That family bridge, pretty much burned. But wait, this family's problems don't stop with just legal documents and broken hearts. If you thought that was the full picture, think again, because here comes Chumlee. Now, Austin Chumlee Russell has always been a wild card. Sure, he was the fun one on screen, but off screen, that dude had some serious baggage. Back in 2012, he was caught throwing hands with some stranger in Hollywood. It turned into a full-on brawl, with the other guy left beaten and bleeding on the pavement. Chumlee claimed self-defense, saying the guy had threatened him and his friends. Maybe he was telling the truth, maybe not. Either way, it wasn't a great look. But that fight was just the warm-up act. Things really hit the fan in 2016. That year, the cops showed up at Chumlee's place with a search warrant, looking into accusations tied to an assault case. They didn't just knock politely, they raided the whole place. What they found wasn't pretty. Weed, meth, guns, even some pills and traces of harder stuff. One of the guns wasn't even legally registered. The charges? 19 counts tied to substances and another one for weapons. Even though the assault claim was dropped later on, the damage was done. People talk, people judge, and once your name is in those headlines, it's tough to clean it up. Chumlee ended up striking a deal, pleaded guilty to a few charges, including having an illegal gun and trying to get substances. It kept him out of prison, but it didn't clear his name. And it wasn't just about what the cops found. It was how much they found. Bags of weed, pills, traces of a white powder, 12 guns, 8 of those unregistered. That's not your average party stash. That's a setup that screams, bad choices were made here. But hey, don't go thinking Chumlee cornered the market on chaos. Because Rick's own son, Corey Big Hoss Harrison,
I can't get a hold of him. I tricked Chum into thinking he won $10,000 on a scratcher ticket.
10,000.
brought his own flavor of mayhem. Corey always talked a big game, wanted to run the shop one day, but instead of steady hands and smart moves, he was out living like a rock star. During a bike trip in Missouri, he landed in hot water after drinking too much and doing something incredibly dumb. Picture this, he's at a bar, everyone's watching, and suddenly he just whips it out and starts peeing in public. Not in a bathroom, in the open. Then he tosses a bar stool across the place. Not exactly leadership material. That stunt got him kicked out of the bar, and when the story hit the media, it hit hard. He apologized, said he was sorry, but you can't unpee in public, you know? While the court fight was going on, more trouble showed up, and this time it was Chumlee and Corey making things worse when the party didn't end well. Just when things seemed to calm down, another mess showed up. In 2020, Corey rented an RV for a little getaway in the California desert. Fun idea until it wasn't. He was supposed to bring it back on a certain date. He didn't. The guy who owned the RV said Corey's assistant called and said they had wrecked it. But it still took 2 extra days for the busted vehicle to show up. And this wasn't just a few scratches. The awning? Gone. The inside? Trashed. Empty bottles everywhere. Even eggshells. Who parties like that in an RV? The damage looked like a tornado rolled through. Put it all together and what do you get? A family and their crew falling apart right in front of the cameras. They might play it cool in the pawn shop, talking deals and vintage toys. But behind the scenes, it's drama, substances, and destruction. Legal fights, restraining orders, bar fights, substance raids, trashed RVs. They've checked off every box. This wasn't just some broken-down ride. A man named VFA said his RV got wrecked so badly, it would cost about $30,000 to fix it. And that wasn't even the worst part. He said he had to cancel 10 bookings because of the damage. Think about that. 10 times someone could have rented it, but couldn't because it was trashed. And guess who he blamed? Corey Harrison. Yep, but instead of owning up, Corey stayed quiet and didn't pay a dime. VFA ended up going to the cops. That got some attention, and suddenly Corey's team tried to smooth it over. They said the RV broke, the pop-outs wouldn't close, it couldn't drive.
Loss of hair?
Dude, you might have had menopause for like 10 years. You might be the longest known case of menopause.
And that Corey got it towed back to Vegas. Oh, and insurance would handle it. That was it. End of story. Or was it? Even if he didn't face legal heat, the damage was done. People saw, people talked. And in the world of reality stars, image matters more than you think. But Corey had more going on than just lawsuits and media noise. Behind the scenes, he was fighting something way tougher. His own health. His weight had climbed so high that he needed gastric bypass surgery back in 2010. Sure, the pounds dropped, over 100 gone, but that doesn't fix everything. Fame is pressure. Running a business is pressure. Staying healthy while juggling both, that's brutal. He still had Chumlee in his corner, though, who even started his own weight loss thing. That friendship, solid. But the peace, temporary. The show had bigger cracks showing. Pawn Stars always needed experts. Not just the funny banter or father-son drama. It was the experts that made it feel real. They talk history, value, rarity, turning junk into gold or gold into junk. People love that, but some of those experts started causing waves. Take Johnny Jimenez Jr. He was known for old toys, the cool retro stuff. But in 2015, the spotlight hit him for all the wrong reasons. A video came out of him and his girlfriend outside a Vegas restaurant. Not a sweet date night, a full-on scene.
Chumlee has done most of the training with me. I've had a little bit of training with Rick directly, but most of the night training is just Chumlee and I.
He was accused of hurting her, and it didn't look good. He said he was helping her because she was drunk, but once your name's tied to something like that, it sticks. Fans didn't forget. Then came John Resnikoff. He looked sharp on screen and knew all about signatures. Autograph guru, right? Until he totally messed up. In 2011, he said a signature on a Godfather script was Al Pacino's. Spoiler, it wasn't. It was the producer, Al Ruddy. Maybe small to some people, but for a guy who's supposed to be a pro, it was a big fail. If he missed that, what else had he missed that nobody caught? But the worst scandal came from Drew Max. He talked all things sports collectibles. Jerseys, balls, signed gear. He was the go-to guy. But in 2015, he got called out for fraud. Not just one slip-up. He gave a thumbs up to fake items that were sold to people who thought they were getting the real deal. They weren't. Buyers sued, said he used his fame from the show to get trust and then trick people. That hit hard. Because if the experts were shady, what did that mean for the rest of the show? And while fans tried to stay loyal, something was changing. And if you think things were already bad, the show itself started falling apart in ways no one saw coming. When the show became something else, Pawn Stars used to feel raw. You never knew what someone would bring in. A Civil War weapon? A signed Beatles record? An old lunchbox? The shop had charm, it had heart. Rick would break down the history, make a deal, teach you something. Even the fights felt real. Dad annoyed at son, co-workers arguing about value. But as the years passed, fans noticed things felt off. People online started saying the sellers were pre-picked. The items? Already priced. The whole thing started to feel more like a play than a pawn shop. Arguments became louder, more dramatic, and less real. It wasn't about the item anymore. It was about who yelled the loudest. The heart was slipping. It went from learning something cool about a World War helmet to wondering who would storm off this time.
The World War I helmet is a great item, and Rick has totally made the right choice at buying it at $500. And I'll tell you what, if it is real, it is a knockout of the park for the guys at the shop.
The magic of walking into a real shop with a weird treasure and maybe walking out with cash? Gone. People missed that. And slowly, the stars themselves became characters, not people. Rick turned into the grumpy boss. Corey was the distracted guy trying to prove himself. And Chumlee? Still a funny one, but with real-life problems that didn't match the show's vibe anymore. Especially Chumlee. Legal trouble followed him like a storm. Fans who loved him had to deal with court reports, mugshots, and serious accusations. It didn't fit the TV version of him. It made watching harder. You couldn't just laugh at his goofiness without thinking about what was going on behind the scenes. And if all that wasn't enough, the shop started to branch out. Merchandise, other shows, even spin-offs. But it felt more like chasing fame than building on what made it special. People didn't want another show. They wanted that show back. The one where something odd came through the door and Rick dropped some cool knowledge on you. Instead, it turned into a soap opera with collectibles in the background. The fans noticed. And once you lose trust, it's hard to get it back. Pawn Stars had its fame, but behind all that shine, things got messy fast. Rick, trying to ride the show's hype, opened this place called Pawn Plaza. Sounds fancy, right? Restaurants, little shops, all set up near the main pawn shop. But nobody showed up. Like really, the place was a ghost town. Shop owners were counting on tourists rolling in from the show, but crickets. Then came the finger-pointing. They blamed Rick for barely doing anything to hype the place. No ads, no buzz, no crowds. Just empty tables and stores shutting down one after the other. Some even took him to court. Ouch. While that flop dragged on, another mess popped up. Remember Olivia Black? She was the one with the cool style. Joined the show back in 2012.
Started in the pawn business because I found this job on Craigslist and I was a personal assistant just looking for a second position.
Fans loved her, and just when she was becoming a regular face, boom, gone, just vanished from the show. People got loud online asking what happened. Then the internet did what it does best and found out she had done some nude modeling before the show. Producers weren't thrilled, and she got booted. Fans were not happy. They thought it was unfair, maybe even sexist. Olivia didn't hide, though. She kept doing her thing, modeling and working outside the cameras. Even tried suing, but the case didn't stick. She bounced back, no thanks to the show. But hold on, it gets worse. In 2014, a guy said his niece stole his coin collection and sold it to the gold and silver shop. He said those coins were worth $50,000, but the store paid her under $3,000. Yikes. By the time he figured it out and called the cops, the coins were already melted or mixed into random buckets. The shop said, hey, we had no idea they were stolen, and also those coins weren't that valuable. But still, not a great look. Is Chumlee truly guilty of a crime so serious it deserves life behind bars? Or is there something deeper the public isn't being told? Tell us what you think and remember to like and subscribe for more.